There was a man who believed the greatest victory leaves no battlefield, no blood, no heroes, no ruins, and yet entire nations collapsed exactly the way he wanted. Here's the uncomfortable part. If you've ever thought power comes from strength, weapons, or courage, this story will quietly dismantle that belief. So let me ask you something first. How do you defeat an enemy? Without attacking them? And why would someone who understood war better than anyone else say that fighting is a failure? By the end of this, you won't just understand one ancient strategist. You'll start noticing his methods everywhere, in politics, business, money, even your own life. But first, the contradiction. This man wrote the most influential war manual in history. Generals studied it. Empires followed it. Corporations still apply it today. And yet, his core idea was simple. If you have to fight, you already lost. His name was Sun Tzu. Not a king, not an emperor, not a conqueror. Just a quiet observer of human behavior. And that's what made him dangerous. Sun Tzu lived in ancient China during a time of constant warfare. States were bleeding each other dry. Battles were endless. Victory was temporary. Everyone believed domination came from force. Sun Tzu didn't. He noticed something most warriors ignored. Wars weren't won on the battlefield. They were decided before the first arrow was fired. In planning rooms, in perception, in psychology. He wrote something that still makes people uncomfortable. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That wasn't philosophy, that was strategy. Because fighting costs resources. It creates resentment. It invites revenge, but control lasts. Here's how he thought about power. If you destroy an enemy's army, you create survivors who hate you. If you destroy their economy, you create desperation. If you destroy their morale, they surrender themselves. Sun Tzu focused on breaking will, not bodies. He advised rulers to win before war even begins. How? By attacking plans instead of people. By spreading doubt instead of fear. By making the enemy question their leadership, their timing, their allies. A confused enemy makes mistakes. A divided enemy defeats itself. This is the part most people miss. Sun Tzu didn't want enemies to know they were being attacked. Because the moment you realize you're under threat, you resist. But if your confidence erodes slowly, you comply. He taught leaders to manipulate information, control narratives, appear weak when strong, appear strong when weak, not to deceive for fun, but to shape outcomes without resistance. And here's the open loop most people ignore. Sun Tzu said the best generals make war irrelevant. How? By making conflict too costly for the enemy to even attempt. When alliances are secured, supply lines are controlled, trade routes are leveraged, and morale is already broken. At that point, war isn't bravery, it's suicide. So the enemy chooses peace, not because they respect you, but because every other option feels worse. This is where it becomes personal. You think this only applies to ancient wars? Look around. Companies don't destroy competitors with products. They destroy them with pricing, timing, and regulation. Governments don't always use armies. They use sanctions, debt, narratives, and dependency. Even in everyday life, the most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who control options. They don't force you. They make your alternatives disappear. Sun Tzu understood something timeless. Force creates enemies. Dependence creates control. And here's the final payoff. Sun Tzu didn't hate war because he was weak. He hated it because it was inefficient. Violence is expensive, unpredictable, temporary. But psychological victory? That lasts generations. Empires fall when they fight too much. They survive when they make fighting unnecessary. So the next time you see a peaceful victory, a war that never happened, a competitor that quietly vanished, remember this: the most decisive battles leave no scars, and the most powerful victories don't look like victories at all. They look like inevitability,